Hey everybody, I'm your host and named Robbie T. Like you didn't know, I didn't know my name for a second. We are doing our fourth part in the lead conversion series. That's all about how to convert opportunities, how to have better conversations. If you've attended any of the first three lessons, you know that we're going super deep into how to have a really great conversation with somebody. And a lot of the advice that you've been getting is really the antithesis of what's been commonly taught throughout the industry. And I'm really excited about today's lesson. It's going to be quicker than normal. Most of the other lessons were 30, 40 minutes. Today will be 20-ish, 30 maybe at the most, if I get long-winded. Um, and we get to talk today all about one simple thought, one simple idea, and it's the idea that people need to feel heard. If you attended lesson number one, it was all about really making people feel safe. And I'm not going to go super deep into any of this. Again, you'll watch the old videos on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search in Hatch Coaching. You'll find them there. If you have any issues, reach out. We can definitely help you out. But today we're going to talk a lot about how the heck do we make sure that people feel heard. Let's start here, though. I want you to imagine for a minute that you're engaged with a salesperson. And I think almost everyone's had an experience like this, whether it's buying a car or life insurance, heck, maybe buying a home, some type of sales process where, very frankly, the salesperson spoke the whole dang time. If you're anything like me, it just gives you absolute ick. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a time and place for us to share thoughts and ideas, advice, wisdom. There's no doubt about it. But almost always what happens is salespeople start talking far too early. You see, when I went and analyzed the conversations and the efficacy, the conversion rates of them, how effective they were, there was a really funny correlation that I found, which was the shorter we engage in a conversation where we're asking somebody questions, and the sooner we translate it to offering solutions or selling or telling, the lower our conversion rates. And I think that just simply comes down to people need to feel heard before you can at all influence somebody. I heard this once from Tony Robbins, that if you want to influence somebody, you first have to find out what's already influencing them. And the reality is that if you want to find out what's already influencing somebody, you have to get so dang good at making somebody feel heard. And we're going to walk through 8 different ways that I think, little subtle things, big things, a variety of different ways of things that you can be doing to make sure that people consistently feel heard in your conversations. Here's what's going to happen when you do these, by the way. One, your conversations are going to become probably a little bit longer, just to forewarn you. People are going to expand. They're going to share more thoughts or ideas. Your conversations are going to go deeper. But I promise you one simple thing, that if you're willing to slow down in the beginning, you can actually speed up in the long run. What seems like you're spending more time is actually saving you tons of time. Now, again, if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out. Additionally, if you're live in the webinar today, drop it in the Q&A, ask some questions. I'll do my best to get to them. But let's start. What are some things that you can be doing to make sure that leads or people simply feel heard? Number one, I want you to write this term down. And this is frankly stolen directly from Stephen Covey. It is rephrase what somebody has told you. If you want to make somebody feel heard, you rephrase what somebody has told you. So let's just take a statement somebody might tell you in real estate. Something like, well, I want to get a bigger home. Some people think that rephrasing is saying something like, all right, so you want to get a bigger home. And that is close. That's repeating what somebody said, which isn't bad, but I don't think it's great. I think we want to be really, really great. What you do is you put a little spin on it. You put your own flavor on it. You put your own language into it. So it sounds like you're needing it a bigger place. Something like that, that hits on 90% of what they've just said, just using different variations of the word. I think this is so key because it literally reminds them of themselves. Think about this. If somebody is rephrasing back the things that you said, almost always what ends up happening is it allows you to hit on the key things that they've just said. And by doing so, you're going to be using similar language, similar thoughts. And at the end of the time, the end of the sentence, when you're done speaking, you're frankly going to remind them a lot of themselves. And if there's one simple thing that we should all know in sales and life, is we all like people that remind us of ourselves. Why? We're the most comfortable with ourselves. Now, there's some interesting exceptions to the rule. Here's another big reason why I like rephrasing, though. Rephrasing is a little hack, I think, that can help buy you time. Let me explain. Let's just say that you've been engaging in a conversation for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, doesn't really matter, and you don't know the next question that you're going to ask. I've always joked that, frankly, I wasn't quick enough. So what I would do is I would rephrase and slow things down as a way to bridge what they just said to potentially asking my next question. So again, if somebody had said that they wanted to get a bigger home, I'd say, all right, excellent. So I'm hearing you're going to need some more space. You're going to need a bigger home. Help me understand. And then I go into my next question. In other words, y'all, rephrasing is kind of like a cheat code of conversations. It's a way where you can slow things down to your speed and connect dots from what they just said to where the heck you want to take the conversation. The best part about it, though, is it's a win-win. Not only are you slowing things down so you can connect the dots, the other person feels heard. So the first big thing that you can do to make somebody feel heard is rephrase the content of what they've said to you. The second big thing, again, is stolen from Stephen Covey. And it's this idea of reflecting back their feelings. Reflecting back the feelings. Now, big F word there, by the way. There's two types of feelings that you're generally going to run into in your conversations. And it's not bad or good, although that's kind of a thing, I guess. There's generally positive emotions like excitement or negative ones like worry or anxiety or fear, whatever it may be. That's not the two types of emotions that we're going to talk about here. We're talking about two other types of emotions. I want you to write this down. In every single conversation, when people are sharing things with you, there's going to be one or two different types of emotions. There's either going to be stated emotions, where people have literally told you, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling excited, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling angry. They will say what they are feeling. All right, so there's stated feelings. The second form of feelings that exist are implied feelings. And this, frankly, just requires empathy. Again, empathy is the ability to step out of my own shoes and envision myself in there. And although you're probably not going to get it 100% correctly, I think that most of us have this capability to imagine if I were in somebody's shoes, man, what would be some of the things I'd be feeling? If I only had 2 bedrooms and I had a 4th kid on the way, I might be feeling cramped or feeling nervous about not having enough space. That might not be stated, but it really could be implied. Another really good example of this is if somebody tells you that their car got broken into and their kid's bike got stolen and they want to move out of their neighborhood, they may not say they're anxious. They may not say they're disappointed. They may not say that they're let down or afraid. It might be implied. Now, a little caveat to this. If you're going to rephrase and then reflect back somebody's feeling, when it's stated, it's easy, right? I can tell that you're really nervous. I can tell that you're really afraid. Or you can say things like, if I were in your shoes, Mike, I'd be really nervous as well, right? Those are simple ways to reflect back the stated feelings that they've told you. The implied feelings, frankly, for most of us, is really nerve-wracking. It's scary for us to reflect back that feeling because there's a chance that you're going to be wrong. You might say, Mike, it sounds like you're pretty nervous, or it sounds like you're pretty frustrated about your current living situation. You're going to take a stab at it. And very frankly, I'm going to shoot it straight with you. 80% of the time, you're probably going to be wrong. Now, what's interesting is almost always one of two things happens when you reflect back implied feelings. One is you're correct. They're like, yep, I'm feeling exactly that. The second big thing, though, that happens when you reflect back implied feelings is they simply correct you. So if you say something like, it sounds like you're pretty frustrated about your current place and want to get out of your neighborhood, they may say something like, well, I'm not really frustrated. I'm just really disappointed because I used to love my neighborhood. In other words, when we reflect back implied feelings and you're wrong, they correct you. And now it's no longer implied, it's stated. Now, again, there's a little caveat that I wanted to get to regarding this, which is if you say an implied feeling that is the polar opposite, a 180 from them, if it comes across as condescending because you say something like, well, it sounds like you love your neighborhood, when clearly the implied feelings are that of frustration or negative feelings, that could backfire. That could come across as condescending or being just frankly an a-hole. So as long as you're within a few degrees in the general right direction, north or south of their feelings, as long as you're guessing something like it sounds like you're really excited to make a home when they're mildly excited, the worst thing that's going to happen is they correct you. Now, if you're guessing they're going north and they're actually feeling something really, really south, if you think they're really excited and they're actually just really, really upset, you're going to come across as condescending, sarcastic, and that's going to backfire. So just be very careful there. But again, to wrap this up, this point, if you're reflecting back feelings, they're stated and implied. Stated's easy. I've literally told you what they're feeling. You could ask other things, by the way, like, what are some other things that this is causing you to feel? I think that's the last point I want to hit on when it comes to this big E word, emotions. I think if you're afraid of reflecting back the stated or implied, just ask, like, what are some of the things that you're feeling? And almost always it moves implied feelings to stated. Now, I don't think there's a right or wrong. Like you could, if you don't know somebody has stated a feeling and it's just been implied, you could ask it. Something like, well, it sounds like you might be nervous. Is that what you're feeling? That could work. You could just say, man, if I were in your shoes, I'd be pretty nervous about your current situation. You could do that. Or you could just flat out ask, man, what are you feeling about all this? I think any of them work because it gets you talking about their emotions. And I think this is so key for one simple reason. Logic is what makes people think, right? We make decisions and then we justify it with logic. But the reality is it's emotion that causes us to act. It is never this logical reason, unless you're dealing with an investor, frankly. 99.9% of the time in residential real estate, people are buying or selling because of emotional reasons, almost never strictly logical. This is what helps you unearth the emotions that they're feeling. And if you can understand the emotions they're feeling, you can far more accurately predict, man, what the heck are they going to go and do? All right, so 1 and 2, rephrase back what they've said, the content of what they've said to you, the content of the conversation. Reflect back the feeling, whether it's stated and implied, or you can ask a question about what are you feeling. Number 3, third thing that you can be doing, and these other points, frankly, go a lot quicker. Number 3, the third thing you can be doing to make somebody feel heard is you can affirm what somebody is saying. Really what this means is when somebody tells you something, you can just be like, all right, so what I'm hearing you say is X. What I'm hearing you say is you want to get a bigger home. Affirming goes hand in hand with the rephrasing, but being a little more directive, like, all right, I hear you. I hear you're saying this, affirming it. Fourth thing that you can be doing to make sure that somebody feels like you're hearing them is you can compliment them. All right, this one works really well with high Ds or high Is or investors or frankly just human beings. And I think the best form of compliment is one that's authentic. Something like, man, that's got to be really exciting for you, like bring some energy, or that promotion sounds really exciting, or moving down to be close to your family is a really great move. Some form of compliment and affirmation type statement can be so key. And I think, again, if you can do it authentically, the better, far better. What's interesting is science shows that actually whether your compliment is, I guess you could say, authentic or not, doesn't actually matter. What I mean by this is they went and studied if you give somebody a compliment that you don't at all believe, it could be complete BS. People on the receiving end, whether the compliment was pretty authentic or not, it made them feel better, made them like you more. Now, I think long term, it's just easier to make more authentic compliments, but compliment the things they're saying. Things like, man, that's got to be, you should be really proud of the fact that you're able to move down south and be with your family and sell your home here. Little compliments like that really go a long way. More authentic, the better. Number five is silence. If you really want to encourage somebody to feel heard, just introduce some silence into your conversations. I've always found that salespeople are really uncomfortable with silence. And what that causes us to do is to jump into conversations, to accidentally step over people, to accidentally almost like frustrate them or cut them off. I think one of the best things you can do to encourage somebody to keep speaking, to make sure they feel heard, is silence, because it's the exact opposite of selling. All right, next, I think this is number six. Number six is subtle encouragement. This one is interesting because I have to really listen to recordings to see when people are failing at this. And that is you chiming in with little statements like, when people are telling you things, or, oh, I could see that. Subtle encouragement is you throwing in little statements when people are speaking to you. I think this does a couple things. One, it's positive and it's reinforcing. Although sometimes the subtle encouragement, frankly, could be, oh goodness, things like that. So it can be you saying something that's showing you're hearing them, but maybe isn't as positive. But I think what this does is it shows them that you're engaged, that you're hearing them. And by doing so, what's happening is you're making that person feel like you're engaged, you're tuned in, and you're hearing them out. So again, what are some examples of this? Somebody speaking, things like, oh, I could totally see that, or oh, I hear you, or just little mms. Or when somebody tells you something heartbreaking, like, oof. Just little pieces like that show somebody that you're engaged, makes people feel really, really heard. All right, here's my last two. And we're brushing over these quickly. I told you today I was going to go much quicker than the others. Number 7 is simply, if you want to make somebody feel heard, use the mindset of tell me more. Meaning, you give somebody permission to tell you more about what they've said. We're not going to go super deep into this because Lord knows we've done it on the other videos. If you haven't dove into the tell me more stuff yet, go and do that. Go to YouTube, check out Hatch Coaching. You'll find the videos there. It's my favorite script in the book. But there is no better other way to make somebody feel heard overall than literally just giving somebody permission to tell you more. I think it is the thing that is consistently it's going to help you make somebody feel really, really heard. And then number 8 is similar to tell me more. It's simply this idea that when somebody is telling you something, you ask for clarity. When you say X, is this what you mean? Or when you're saying X, this is what I'm hearing, is that what you mean? Asking for clarity is very similar to tell me more, except you're literally saying, hey, I'm hearing something. I just want to make sure I'm hearing that more correctly. Now, that's 8. I'm going to give you a bonus one. Number 9. I would say number 9, the very last one we got to hit on today, if you want to make somebody feel heard, is you got to just actually care. You got to really take a deep interest and see the brilliance behind somebody. You got to see and relate to their story. You got to care about helping solve somebody's problem or help them go from point A to point B. I think number 9 simply is you got to give a crap. And I think this is one of the most undervalued pieces. It's the most intangible thing I could think of, but I think it's so key that you got to have your heart aligned and in the right place. I think that if your heart is simply dead set on, I got to go make more money, I got to go sell another home, this is just another transaction. I think if you view it that way, frankly, you're doomed from the beginning. You're never going to be able to make somebody feel heard. I think if you want to make somebody feel heard, you just got to give a crap. All right, y'all. Those are my top 9 ways that I utilize consistently to make feel heard. The interesting thing is, and I do it in sales, I do it in leadership. I try to do it as a dad and as a husband. Lord knows I fall short some days. I'm sure some of you guys can give an amen to that. But these are some little tiny ways to help make people feel heard. When people feel heard, they're more willing to share more information. When people share more information, man, all this becomes easier. It's like grease that makes all this go so much smoother. Get out there, y'all. Make people feel heard. Rephrase, reflect, affirm, compliment. Make sure you're quiet sometimes. Give people little tiny compliments. Use tell me more, ask for clarity, and for the love of God, actually give a crap. All right, y'all. Hopefully you found some value in that today. It was quick. It was easy. If you have any questions, reach out to me, Real Robbie T on Instagram or at robbiet@hatchcoaching.com. Get out there, do good, give a crap. Peace, y'all.